You wouldn't even know it's there. You're driving along Soledad at 50, 60, 80, 90 miles an hour. You know you do. And just a couple blocks back, there's a ranch with 40 horses. You might never heard of Honby, but that's actually where we are. We're here on this ranch with 40 horses, and you might not know its proprietor either, but you know his work. From Gunsmoke to Blazing Saddles to Little House to Cowboys and Aliens. You do know his work. I'm Leon Worden, and this is Legacy, brought to you by SCVTV and the Santa Clarita Valley Historical Society. We're out here on the ranch of an actor and stuntman and cowboy wrangler, equestrian animal actor supplier, Jack Lilley. Thanks for having us.
Please don't get too carried away. Complete ham out.
Well, we'll get a little carried away. Well, actually, we're gonna let our guest host get a little carried away here. We're helped out by one of Jack's friends, Santa Clarita Mayor Bob Kellar. Bob?
You bet. Leon, thank you very much. What a pleasure to be here with you, Jack.
Always. Here's a pretty good cowboy sitting right here.
Well,
he come over and gets a horse and still gets on one and gets around.
Well, why don't you start there? How'd you two meet?
Over these horses.
yeah, over the horses.
Yeah, it was over horses.
And I'll tell you, the good thing about it is getting with Jack, and we get to visiting, and we get to talking about people that we both know. Of course, I don't know anybody compared to this gentleman, but I am telling you, if it has to do with Western movies, going back into, what, early 50s, maybe late 40s?
I got in I wasn't old enough to get in the guild when 1947, 48, they were all scrambling to make little westerns, something to sell to TV. I did go, even Tim McCoy had a thing on there.
You probably knew Crash Corrigan, too.
Oh, did I? I got pictures of my dad working. We're actually 4 generations with my grandkids all into the motion picture business. Yeah. And it's just, you've just been around and you get to know it. I can remember right here down the corner driving. I was just a kid. I went in, but seeing Hoot Gibson standing right out here, Benelli thing before, when he was standing there and a cigarette hanging outside of him, cocked up over hip, talking to someone, and Dan Spathy was born and raised around here. He said, "That's Hoot Gibson." And I said, "Well, yeah."
That must have been about the late 40s, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, you would have been a teenager. I read on the internet you're born in 1933.
That's right. August
so
14th,
you 19... came out.
Huh?
You came out here to Honby when?
After I got out of the service during the Korean War, it was 1953, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you were here as a teenager, you'd already been around here.
Before, Yeah, I'd been up here I used to come up here and haul horses for old man Spahn from North Hollywood Stable. It was down there on Riverside Drive in Whitsett. And we'd bring horses and pasture them up here and haul them back and forth and between here and Lancaster and all of this.
Old man Spahn, is that like Spahn Ranch?
That's
all in the same.
Yeah.
My stepmother's dad, George Spahn, was Charlie Manson. But Charlie's been on this place, believe it or not.
Charlie Manson been here on this property?
Yes, he was, but I didn't know what a little jerk he was then. But him and that shorty that they killed, I don't know if you wanted to go in a little bit of that, but I can tell you.
Be careful, they'll be digging around here if you're not careful.
Wherever you want to go.
Not here. No, all that Charlie did, Mr. Spahn couldn't see. He wore glasses as thick as a Coke bottle, so he could drive. He just drove me here. At that time, there was nothing what he is. And when he was up there on that Santa Susana Pass, I went up there and they were hanging around. They were just hippies to me. I had no idea anyone. But one of them girls told me one time that after that Shorty, I can't think what his last name was.
Is that the one named Watson?
Was that it?
I think Shorty was known for Watson.
Well,
I might be mistaken.
She told me, said, "Yeah, they killed him. He's under this freeway." I said, "You're full of crap. Don't give me that." And she said, "No." I said, "Well, why wouldn't they come get him?" He said, "Do you think they're going to dig up this new freeway from Chatsworth to CME looking for him?" And then it made sense. Yep. He was a weird little guy. Mr. Spahn bought a Appaloosa mare off of me, and I didn't have the money with him. And so he said, "Bring it up, and in the evening, and just leave it with Charlie, and he was sitting there. But tell him it's a registered papers and a brand paper, no money in it. Well, I didn't know. At that time, there was nothing to know about him. And I sit and talk to this guy probably 30, 40 minutes, just head out there in front on that porch.
Yeah.
But he was just...
I didn't know Charlie Manson and Spahn had a relationship that went back.
All the time. They were there. They lived right there on his place.
Yeah.
He didn't know. The girl Squeaky
Yeah.
I knew her more than anything. She seemed like, a real nice woman, or girl. She's a young girl. And she was very well educated. She had 2 degrees. And I said, well, how come you're living like that? She said, well, it's just the way of our life. And then lo and behold, later when it come out what they were, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, and of course later she was the one who tried to take a shot at President Ford.
Yeah,
That's a fact.
Yeah.
You could have told me that if I would have known. I said, that's bull.
Yeah.
Her president, she was, some of them other old girls around there pretty goofy acting, but her was very quiet, and sensible sounding.
Just all the drugs and whatever? Or?
Never seen none of them.
No.
I never seen any of them. I wasn't there that much. That was business. Like I say, that was my stepmother's dad, George Spahn.
Your stepmother's dad. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean that, and I would rent horses or something for him and go up and trade, but I never hung around there around him. And they had a place actually up over in one of them little valley kind of things where they had a camp, and they weren't there all the time. They were moving around.
See, Bob, you never know where these things are going to go.
Isn't that the truth?
Until
We
the
hadn't
end.
covered this
but
topic
you know what?
with before.
The whole 6 degrees of separation stuff. I thought we had just the one connection to Charlie Manson, because you know who owned the Spahn Ranch before Spahn did?
Uh-oh, who's that?
A guy named William S. Hart.
Did he really?
Did he own that land?
Yeah, he owned that land
I
for a
didn't
while.
know that.
Yeah,
Jack,
but
it's
anyway,
important to know that truly, one of the finest, most knowledgeable historians we have here in Santa Clarita is this gentleman right here, Leon.
I've heard that. And
well, I learned it from people like this.
Well-
Now, before we get, okay, we've gone down the Charlie Manson road that I didn't know we were going down, but I want to go out to a different side of your family.
Well,
and
I
let's
hope so.
talk a little bit about Honby and how it is that we're here.
Well,
Where the heck is Honby?
well, my wife's sitting in there. Mr. Baltz, her grandfather, bought this. And they lived before right over here where the trailer park is. And then he bought this land, I think, from a man called Gujamini. If I stand to be corrected, but she'd have to.
I'd have to look it up.
But she's, Irene, my wife lived here since she's 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah, Baltzers have been here
yeah.
like forever.
Well, her mother was Lizzie, was a Baltz. Well, that was her grandfather or her father. And then she married my father-in-law, Larry Madrid, and they all lived here. They all worked. They had thrashing crews, horses. The son, her uncle Tuffy, and the other uncles and cousins, and they all worked and took the horses from here and made Clear to Ventura and bean farms and thrash that and the beans and that, and that's what they did here. And they had barn. I torched and cleaned up a lot of them old barns for where they used to keep the workhorses, and they had mowers and cut hay, did anything you could to make a living.
Yeah.
And I got a picture of him in there in the bedroom, and but I never knew him.
Right.
He had passed away just a little before Irene and I were married.
And so you got married, and that's when you came out here to live?
Me?
Yeah. Was it when you got married?
No,
or-
my dad lived here.
Oh, your dad lived here.
We
Okay.
moved from the Valley. Well, I come back from the Korean War deal, and I come back, and my dad said, I just bought a place up on Quigley up here in Placerita Canyon, and so till I get situated and got on, me and my brother rented rooms for our dad here, paid and stayed there. So we were around here then. That's in 53, I'm going to say, right in there.
So you're already working in pictures by then.
Yeah.
How did you get into
No,
it?
I got in 1950. Well, I got a spring in my fog. I think it's I've been in 57 years, so whatever that is.
Okay.
But I'd worked before, like I say, when they were all thing. We worked up and down these canyons, up Sand Canyon under that rail trestle, and anything that were they were trying to sell, and they bootlegged it, and they were not union pictures, you know, them little crummy westerns they made.
Yeah.
And things like that.
Well, how did you end up getting into pictures?
Well, around the stable, the old man Spahn, a guy named Bob Gilman and Webb, the Webb brothers, they had a production company. And we got, they should have been out because they would grab the satchel and run on you with the dough. I can tell you one thing, we did some bulldogs for 4 guys and hit on that road. If you're going onto that bridge, that dirt road up the end of, what's that street when you're Lost Canyon?
Lost Canyon.
I mean, busted our bus. Yeah, but I made $240 that week, and I never thought I'd see that poor day again in my life. Well, I can tell you the check today, it had that bucking horse on it from Wyoming, like on their license plate. We go, Penno Spahn and Tex, they're Lambert and Bob Thing and Whitey Hughes. We go right to Hollywood, that bank. I get from me to you, and this woman's shaking her head. I said, what? She said, that ain't no good. I said, you haven't even looked at it. She said, no funds. We know that. They had grabbed the satchel and run, so there went my big days of that.
So what exactly were you doing? Were you wrangling? Were you
Stunt then. Yeah, wrangle, doing everything. And I never become a wrangler, real wrangler, until I did as a kid when they were short of people. Yeah. From I 14, 15, Ralph McCutcheon, who was down in the valley. He said, come on, kid, you go to work. I said, well, I'm not 18. I can't go. He said, tell him that, just fill it out. Go ahead. And, but we did that. But then when I went to the surfing and come back, and I went right in the gill because my father had been in it. And
so you were doing stunts then?
Yeah,
you were falling off horses.
Well, when I was a kid, it was starting. Yeah, but that's the one I got beat out of the money about. Yeah. No, yeah.
How'd you learn to fall off a horse?
Huh?
How'd you learn to fall off a horse without breaking your neck?
Listen to them older cowboys, and they tell you, just go hip to hip, and it'll literally kick you over, and don't stick your arm out because you're going to break your wrist if you didn't take it in, on yourself. And I had Henry Wills and different stuntmen as younger taught me and showed me a lot to do. But I've horse-wise, that's all I did all my life. My dad used to say, when you come to school, don't be going to hang around that school. You get home, you got horses to ride. Right. That's even before we moved up here, when in Van Nuys and on the North Holly Van Nuys line there off of Varna, the wash, and it was still a horse thing in there. And Panorama Ranch, hell, I galloped colts and broke horses right there when that was still a Panorama Ranch at City. And then we moved up here. We started building in around it, in horses.
And of course, in stunt work, there's different disciplines. I mean, there's, there's the
well,
equestrian, there's the fall guys.
I could drive a wagon when I was 8, 10
But
years old.
But you didn't get into like driving cars or flying out of helicopters.
No, a little bit. But if the chase cars, yeah. But Bob and I was talking about that earlier. They called me one time from Disney. They said, come down, they had a gas tanker going through intersection, and they wanted me to lay a motorcycle on sliding. And I said, you got the wrong guy. I said, who gave you my name? He was assistant director. I said, I would have no idea how to do that. Call Gary McCarty or one of those motorcycle guys. I said, I wouldn't know how to do that at all.
Now, Bob, I know you wanted to ask Jack something about.
Well, you're talking about the riding, and Lord knows Jack Lilley performed in a lot of shows. But we've talked about a guy that was a resident here in Santa Clarita for many years, and I know you knew him well, and that was Jack Williams.
Yeah, a dear friend of mine.
One heck of a horseman.
Pound for pound, the toughest son of a gun I ever met in my life.
I had the privilege of knowing him, and many times we visited. But I'll tell you,
stories
I had
about
no
Jack.
idea that, and here we are talking about him.
Right.
What a phenomenal guy.
No, he was very well educated. He didn't have to do it for a living. He was an educated booger. But I seen his mare turn over on him. I almost said her name. Universal, right there in the square, and just whip and bam. I mean, blood actually ran out of his ear. And he said, "Oh, she never touched me." That's how tough this booger was.
Well, he did something very special on a horse that I don't know if you could get away with it today, but he was able to pull a horse down.
I got him. No, I do that. I did that too.
Did you do it as well?
Yeah,
Jack?
that's what I'm talking about. When he put the snatch on his, instead of like this picture up here, see how that horse is going in? That's one of mine, my son on it.
Yeah.
There you come in and you just put the snatch and you just ride him in. Put your this leg above the shoulder so he don't get you. And I never ever really got hurt bad at all on phone horse. But Jackie would snatch him and ride over backwards. And I mean, he was unbelievable.
He was a horseman. That's for
And
sure.
I seen him as big as he was. You know, he's a big stout guy. On How the West was one, we're in Lone Pine. He'd come into them and watch it sometime. It's not cut. That 6 up going, he transferred over into that tag, and that horse, that mare kept running alongside and transferred back over onto that damn horse. And I mean, it was unbelievable.
He's an athlete.
I'm one of them Indians. I'm watching him. Good Lord, no, he was an athlete. This guy.
Did you work with John Ford?
Yes, sir. I was Ford. I worked on. The Cortez did. It's called Charles. Liberty Balance. I worked a little on that. The last show, what Ford did right there, Shoot Us, but one of them other Waynes in that. I wasn't one of the chosen few in with that bunch, but I did work with it.
So what's your impression of John Ford?
Huh?
What's your impression of John
He's
Ford?
a tough booger. Stand there, have that old handkerchief in his mouth and wipe on and chewing on it. And on Liberty Balance, we're right at Paramount on the stage, and I happened to be standing there, and he was setting a shot, and he looked at me, he said, "Hey, Duke, get over and get on that line and stand in." He said, "That's where I got you when you used to stand in." I said, "Get over and do it." He said, "Yes, sir." And did.
Do like you're told.
Yeah.
You bet.
No, he did.
You don't cross John Ford.
He didn't. He's a rough old booger.
You mentioned a name a moment ago, or a movie, How the West Was Won.
Yeah.
There was another phenomenal guy and another person that lives right here in Santa Clarita, Lauren James.
Yes, he's an athlete. He was a gymnast deluxe. High man was his specialty. He was very athletic. Very athletic.
He did a lot of work and stand-ins for Steve McQueen in
Yes, he
all of
did.
his movies. Was
Yes,
Lauren James.
yeah.
And what a great
Yeah, we
guy.
were together, and he doubled on.
Well, I think one thing that you both did, if I'm not mistaken, was Blazing Saddles.
I did. I was one of the gang on Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. That's what I want to hear.
Everyone was talking. Well, you just tell it. That Mel Brooks, there isn't nobody like. It was a funny thing. I went in there first for a one-day stunt ducket. I was going to double our Carracks, the Mongo, riding a bull, and then was going to go into the church, and then this bull race came. Well, they scrapped it, and they said, well, being you're here on a stunt anyway, we'll go. Well, and so they get in the gang, and it was a freak deal. They took a water hose, a big fire hose, and washed this side of that street at Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. Well, when that water hits that old wood, it goes like soap. It got slick. Well, the idea when we come in, I was going, if you look at it, I come in, cut this one on that black horse, and there's a guy crouched down at the end because he couldn't get down. Well, when I hit this horse weighed 1,200 pounds. Mm-hmm. He wasn't a falling horse like this. But we hit, and he go to scrambling. Well, I can't look to see if I'm near a glass window or not. And in that mud there, I knew it was there. So I just snatched him and fell him. And I got up, and pardon my English, but Mel Brooks, holy shit, what was that? He said, I never seen nothing like that in my life. Well, I jumped up and run on out, and go on with him.
Tell me something before we get off of Blazing Saddles.
got it.
Of course, most of that stuff was shot at the lot, but Rock Ridge was out there, Vasquez Rocks, and then you got Count Basie out there in the middle.
And that was out in Palmdale.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to ask you. Where exactly was that?
If you almost to Mojave out there on that desert. Out there on, it was all shot here.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So were you on that?
Yes, I was on it all the time. I was in there as a gang from
So
start.
Cleavon Little on one of your horses when he was riding up?
No, I wasn't in that horse. I just.
No, you weren't on it. I know, but was that one of your horses?
No, I never got. I'll tell you, I got in this horse business. My father was a wrangler when he retired. Well, I was busy, and I was with Mike Landon for 9 years on Little House. I doubled Vic French, and then was stunt coordinator on some of them, and then did Father Murphy for him. And then the last stunt job I coordinated for him was Highway to Heaven. Mm-hmm. But Mike or Bill Claxton, the producer and director, with the talent man, he called me, and I had worked for him on High Chaparral for 4 years. I doubled the lead on that. Well, he said, Mike wants you to do a remake of Bonanza. And I said, well, I don't want to leave it. I'm here in town. I got a good job. He said, no. He said, Mike Jr.'s going to do it, and he trusts you. He said, listen to the deal. You can have, you're on a stunt, we got a part for you, and if it runs, you will be a running part as one of the ranch hands. You'll have a running part, me and Bobby Hoy. And you can supply the horses because Mike wants you to do it. Mm-hmm. Well, a deal like that, good Lord, I can't turn that down. Mm-hmm. So I went up there on that, and it turned out to be a piece of junk, really. But Irby Smith and two producers from NBC liked the way I set up the horse. That was my first job I ever just took. I knew how to run one, but and run them. Mm-hmm. And they called me and said, we want you to do a feature film for us. And I said, well, give me a script and I'll see how many stuntmen. And no, he said, we want you to take over the whole horse department. And it was Blazing Young Guns. Young Guns. So I did Young Guns 1, and they called me right back on Young Guns 2, mm-hmm. and then boom, they called me back for City Slicker to City Slickers 2. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting some age on me then. I'm 50-something years old. And a lot of time there's a lot of guys not knocking them, discrediting them, but you're like a fighter. Pretty soon, mm-hmm. And that keep pounding in there when you're that old, that's just nonsense. That's what gets. Well,
baseball career's over at 40, so
right, right, same thing. Yeah. I mean, but you got to do. I think the last Saddle Falls I did was on Three Amigos.
Oh yeah,
and I did 4 or 5 of them that day in that thing. Me and my sons, they were there, stuntmen, and I said, this is it.
4 or 5 in a day, huh?
Yeah. No more. Well,
you don't hate yourself that much.
No, I'm 58 years old, and I mean, look at your legs. You can't spring. Yeah, and by then I'm like I was telling Bob and I was talking earlier. This leg there, if I can get on a horse off there, I'm fine. But I can't get this leg to get up and go over. And if getting off is what worried about it. If you get here, hell, you fall on your ass there. It ain't worth that.
Yeah. You never did any rodeoing, did you?
I tried. I got on all them bulls did is hurt me. And I never did ride. I got on some saddle barn. I could ride a bucking horse decent, but not enough to mm-hmm. win. And I never did get on a bareback horse. I never did try one.
Jack, can I shift gears with you? I got a question for you. You just mentioned something, Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
Jack Palance.
My dear friend, he's right there on the wall. We were that close, a guy we did a lot of shows.
What an actor.
Oh, man. And how stout he was. Now, this is gospel. Dan Spathy and I sent him in on that thing, everyone in, it's cold like it was today, and they had that little thing where he died, and Billy reached over and he's dead. Well, Dan and I stand for media. I'm watching that, and he got that. I said, Jack, you're going to get nominated for Academy Award. It's all bullshit. Watch me. They did. I mean, it was just live, just watching it. Doggone.
He made a lot of movies.
Yeah. Boy, last time I seen him, he was still in Hatfield. His old, he picked me up and just squeezed it. It was like a giant just getting a hold of you.
You know, you mentioned bareback riding. That reminds me of Ben Johnson.
Ben was a dear friend. He'd been in this house, sitting right where you have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I met Ben with my dad. He'd come to the house all the time and eat. When he come out to Fat Jones and brought that load of horses out, that horse that Wayne rode all the time, or he rode that steel horse, prettiest horse that I think I've ever seen. Well, that's how long I was a kid when I met Ben, and knew him and were friends right until he passed away.
Yeah.
There's not a better man going. I will tell you a good story about him. Durango, right there, where my wife's sitting with Dean Martin, that show. We, all the stuntmen, got a big house, 2-story house to stay in. So one room, Ben and I got a room together. We had twin beds in there, and I'm sitting there, it's 5 or 6 in the afternoon reading, and Ben was too. The phone rings, and they say, Ben, they want you down. And it is an hour before that, he read that script, that last picture show. He said, I ain't going to do that dirty thing, and threw it across the room. His agent said, how you like it? He said, that's what he said. I'm not going to do that. It is a half hour later, the phone rings, and he picks it up. Yes, sir. No, sir. Okay. John Ford.
John
you
Ford.
do that. I knew without even who it was when he
was on the line.
Saying,
Well, you know, one thing about Ben Johnson and John Ford, you know, Ben had a good friend who lived right up as a crow flies, not very far away, and did mind pictures with John Ford, and that was Dobie Carey.
I know Dobie well.
And
My
tell
wife-
me about him. Did you hang out
Well,
together?
we
or
go
what?
so far. Oh, he's great. My wife in there used to leave here, ride, and go play with her sister. His sister. And I
Kathy?
know Dobie since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
A fine
Of course,
actor,
Dobie
a good
and his
guy.
sister Cappy, they both went to Newhall School.
Yeah,
over
well,
there,
she
you know?
did. Well, first time when I went with Dobie when I got in, her uncle was Ernie Cook, Fat Cook, and he worked for old man Hart. And in fact, her mother used to go up there and clean her and around Hart's place. I asked Dobie, I said, do you know Fat Cook? He said, yes, I do. I went to school with him and with one of my best friends. I said, well, I'm married to Irene now. And he said, I'll be darned. And but he was always a good guy. And that Hank Worden, that guy, that was a bald-headed one who was always with him, he was a character. On that Brando show, One-Eyed Jacks.
Yep.
That finally got... We go out here to Warner Brothers Ranch at pickup show when we come from Death Valley. And I always thought, you know, he's an actor, and he did a good job. Well, they put us on that big hill, and I doubled Brando and just being him. And I said, Hank, how do you want to go on it? I said, knocking on it. I said, yeah. And they waved the flag, and I mean, he went to whipping and spurring, and we're coming off wide open. I said, man, you do cowboy up. He said, well, that's what I was doing when Mr. Ford found me in Wyoming. I was just working on a ranch. Yeah, and that was him. He wasn't acting the way he acted.
Yeah.
That guy was just that way.
I don't think you and I have talked about him, but I've got to mention another one out there to you because everybody we're talking about, it all comes together. Ward Bond.
Oh yeah, he could be grumpy booger,
He
but he was all right. I mean, yeah, he didn't have the personality that a lot of them do. You know, Ward could be. You know, especially I worked around him once, I think around Wayne, and then the other time was on that wagon train. But he would be kind of not bad, but he'd be grouchy. He could be grouchy as could be.
He sure made a lot of movies with Wayne.
He did.
I'll tell you.
If you were in with Ford once and you mind your P's and Q's, right to the. If you notice when Wayne made the Alamo,
Yes.
he. The assistant on there, I knew, he said he made a job for Ford because that Ford was going to take over, and he said, here, take him second unit there. Or he said, he wouldn't even let me direct my own film. He said, no, I'll do this and that. That's the way it was.
I'll throw another name out there, kind of off the track here, but Clark Gable.
I met Clark Gable. He come to my dad's. Had a horse. His picture's right there in the front room. Honest John, he wanted to see that stud. Clark liked horses, and thing. In fact, what was Spreckles? Case Spreckles, was that this last moment, or when he married the sugar heir for? And they bought a black mare for my dad for her. But I got to sit like us, and he'd wait for my dad to get back. But I got there in 50 minutes visibly, very fun. And then I got to work on one of his last movies.
Oh, yeah.
Band of Angels. And but he was just a super guy, like Gregory Peck, another one. Mm-hmm. We did the first Western, Westward Ho the Wagons out here. Maureen Woodward.
Sure.
So that's where I met him. So that's a long time ago. Him and the Die-Fest Parker. And Yakima Canet was directing second unit.
Tell me about Yakima.
Yak was.
Did you ever work with him?
You did. I knew him since before I.
You knew he did.
Me and his boy just passed away, Ed Canet.
Yeah.
Tap. We went to school together. We'd walk.
Well, see, that's what I would have thought. I would have thought I'd known Tap Canet. I don't know about, if you work with Yakima.
Yes, I do. I work for Yak on this show, Westward Ho the Wagon. He directed second unit. Yes, I have. That was a stunt.
Tell me about him.
You're talking about another Jackie Williams?
Yeah.
That's
Yak.
You hear an awful lot about him. What don't people know about him?
Nothing that I know about that he was a cowboy. He just come in here as a cowboy. He was a good guy because I'd walk right by from North Hollywood Junior High, him and Tap, and he'd up, and I walking right on down across Laurel County to Riverside Drive and North Hollywood Stable, George Spahn, all together.
Yeah.
And I'd see Tap and it's Yowery Jack and when I was a kid, and I'd walk on that. But then I seen him probably 3 months. They had a little jackpot rodeos. Remember here? Yak was there. Mm-hmm. And I went over and sit down and talked with him.
Here in Saugus or New Hall or whatever?
Yeah, it was right over here, over where that old hog ranch kind of thing was over on that side.
That was Canyon Country Frontier Days.
You got it.
And we had 3 national rodeos here a year.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, Yak was there.
Was he?
And I sat and talked to him then. And I told my wife, I said, he got to quit. He had took an old eyebrow pencil and pushed that mustache and did them eyebrows. And I said, man, he don't need to do that. He was either 90 or 91 years old.
Yeah, well, he would have been. I know that Tap ended up living in, Agua Dulce.
He died.
Yeah, I know.
And Joe's up.
Did Yak ever live out here?
I don't know. No, North Hollywood, I'll tell you right, if you were coming down Riverside Drive, and at Laurel Canyon, there used to be a drugstore, going that way, go about a block and a half, there was an old kind of a Spanish-style house. That's where Yak lived, right there. But I don't know where he all lived all over, because as a young man, he's a cowboy and everything else. But you stop and figure he's in this movie business most of his life, too.
I want to mention something, if I can.
Sure.
We're talking about those rodeos that the Canyon Country Chamber used to put on every year. Over here, we call it in the river bottom, which over by the hog farm here in Canyon Country. But Monty Montano was our honorary chair.
Good guy. I knew Monty all my life.
Well, and I had the privilege for a number of years. I was the rodeo chairman. And I got to tell you, one of the most enjoyable moments I had for those rodeos, I'd ride out at the Serpentine, and they'd introduce me, and I'd wave my hat at all the girls, and I'd go get front row center seat somewhere and watch. I'm just out there for show. But Monty Montana, I'm telling you, talking to him, what a guy.
Yeah.
I just was so impressed with him.
Monty was always a good guy.
Can I say something here? I think I was probably in junior high school then.
Thank you for adding that to the equation.
And I go one further.
What did we bring him along for?
When I was a little guy, the old Downey Road horse sale in Los Angeles, Monty Montana's mother and dad would come. They come out of Wyoming or someplace, but they dressed in the Indian suit. And she made quilts and sold them. And then they had a whip act. She'd go in there and do that, and they'd pass a hat And my dad went over to look at a horse. I almost said it's quarter horse stud. But they were living over there in Whittier, on the outside of Whittier, in a silo converted into a house. And I did have the privilege of knowing them too.
Yeah.
Knew his kids, knew a daughter and son.
Mm-hmm.
And
of course, there's another one who migrated from down below to out here.
Aquadolce.
Yeah,
right.
Well, yeah, he owned half of North Ridge.
Yeah, the Devonshire Downs, right?
Corner from Zelza back
Yeah.
straight through it. He must have had 15 acres square right there.
Rodolfo went by Rudy Acosta. I know you knew him well. As we said,
like a brother.
his son
He's been
is on the
in
council.
here too a lot of time, right here in this house.
But he could really play a bad guy.
He's a good actor anyway.
He was a great actor.
Look at go way back some of them before he flattened his nose and they took all the bone out of his nose. And he had a thin nose. He was a handsome man. But then he looked like a fighter, after he flattened his nose out.
Looked like a fighter that never missed a punch.
No, Rudy. Well, he was on One Eye Jacks.
Yeah.
Rudy.
Yeah. And he made a lot of stuff with John
I
Wayne.
was with him, yeah. They used to cuss him because every time with that spear killing that dog, they said, that's just an Indian
And
son
Hondo.
of a bitch. Hondo. That's that rotten son of a bitch.
And in that same movie, you remember he stabbed John Wayne in the shoulder.
Yeah.
So the other day when I saw Hondo for probably the 20th time, I was watching TV and I saw it and I called up his son, Dante Acosta, and I said, Dante, I want to tell you something about your pa. He was a no good son of a gun. I said, we have more fun talking about his dad, but what a great actor.
Yeah.
I know another name that we don't want to close without talking about Richard Farnsworth.
Oh, Richard. I knew him before when I was from 12 years old. Talented man.
You bet.
I mean, he was a cowboy. He could ride bareback horses good. Well, him and his son both were like Lauren James. They were gymnasts. They were, really had that good ability. I worked with Dick forever. And Dick was always Dick, just as nice a guy as you could ever be around. Him and his known artist now, and it was works done, Walt LaRue, they were together all the time. But I was there when he took archery with Howard Hill. We walked, and Bear Hudkin was on the Hudkin brother.
I'm going to interrupt you only for this one moment because I know it's necessary.
Yes, sir.
Howard Hill was very well known in the late 40s and 50s as an incredible archer. And he was on television all the time doing stunts with archery. I just wanted to lay the background because he was still in probably junior high or grade school at that time.
Well, he's the first guy. He shot and killed an elephant with a bow and arrow. Well, Dick, Pee Wee Hudkins, and Bear, we were knights or something, one of them Robin Hood things, kind of like that. And that Howard Hill and Dick and Bear had a target bigger than that, and we're galloping on that back lot of Warner Brothers, and that Howard Hill stood over on the field and just come around there and shot an arrow. And I said, Bear, I don't think I could have did that. What if that horse would have stumbled or everything? Because I mean, the catcher was no bigger than say a cantaloupe.
Yeah.
And boy, he hit that thing just square in the middle of it. But I said that took a lot of guts to let him shoot at you.
Better believe it.
Well, we're on Warlord, and there's a guy learning because they were shooting Charlton Heston moving, shooting, and then we're pushing a wooden thing to get over the wall, and our legs are here, and they want to shoot me in the leg. And this Tony Epper, he said, I'll do it. I said, no, you won't. I said, Farnsworth, okay, I'll let Dick do it. And he did. Yeah, I mean, he shot right. I had a thing right here on my calf, and Ben, he stuck it right in there. But this guy learning, and he telling me he's going to shoot him in. No, I ain't doing that. But the funniest thing was Farnsworth and I were on Spartacus. In fact, when that oldest boy there was born, and I get there to Universal, and they had spray booths like Earl Scheib just spraying you down with that old Bolamina. And I walk in and out of the shadow, it's hot, and in the corner, hey, Lil, look, and it's Farnsworth. He's sitting He don't weigh. I weighed 158 pounds in, and he didn't weigh nothing. They got every guy in Vic Tanny's gym. They're the giant. He said, "What are we doing here?" And I said, "I don't know, Dick." Well, they had you run through and cheering yourself and do all this. He could take on a 2x6, not put his hand over it, but like that, and chin himself 3 times. So they're all running, and Dick run through there and did that, and all these muscle guys, they're looking. We sat over the corner all day long. They're trying to do it, but they couldn't do it.
I think one of his finest works was a movie with Steve McQueen and Tom Horn.
You bet.
Wasn't that?
And The Silver Fox, a Canadian film.
That was another one.
And Here Come a Horseman. I mean, he really showed what it. You know, when we started, when I was a kid and them working together, we were at Disney. There's Buddy Van Horn, Dick, and I. For 4 years, we never left when for all them little westerns that Disney made, Zorro and that. We stayed on that lot. I mean, we for 4 years didn't have to work.
There was a lot going on in westerns in those days.
There was.
You know, the one thing I think is noteworthy, and we talk about our Old Town Newhall here in Santa Clarita, something we're very proud of, and that is our Western Walk of Stars. And I dare say, Jack, talking with you, and your name's there as well, but I will tell you, our Western Walk of Stars, a lot of the folks we've talked about today.
I walked the other day, and amazing the people I knew.
Yeah.
Hey, do you go down there and visit your bronze plaque a lot?
Huh?
Do you go down there and visit your bronze plaque?
I've been there maybe 3 times.
One last name I want to mention, and that's another. You mentioned nice guys like Richard Farnsworth, and there's another nice guy I had the pleasure of doing one of these sit-down talk shows with, and that was a guy named Jim Arness.
Oh yeah.
Hey, just as good. I got one of his shirts right over there, and one of John Wayne's right there in that deal. Jim is a good guy. I bought all his horses. You know, a lot of people didn't know. Off camera, Jim had a bunch of registered quarter horses. He had over there and see me. And I guess I can tell it now because they couldn't do nothing to him. But I bought all them horses and that. And then he told me about giving Brandeis all that land over there. You know, that big school. Mm-hmm. And man, he said, "Hey, the taxes are eating me up and everything." He said, "But there was a little sweetening of the pot." I said, "What?" He said, "You know, when we buzzed you out there at Thousand Oaks in that twin-engine plane, that was part of it." And he said, "I've got about a 36-foot long little sailing boat sitting down here in October. I got that." He says, "Well, I got something out of that property." But no, he was a great guy. Just great.
And you know, a lot of people don't realize it, but you know, he did his part in World War II.
Yeah, that foot. He was in a plane.
Was it plane?
Yeah, come up, blew, and hit shrapnel, went right through here. I've seen the foot. He went in, had it 13 days of glory. He had it worked on again. And he said it did a little, but he said, "You're never going to get it right." Yeah. And there was one of the best guy in the world right behind your head to work with, that Dean Martin. That was a funny. I got to tell you this. We're down there on that show that we're in Durango, Mexico, and out Chupaderos, that river you always see in all them wild bunch, the same place. I walked out and we were off in the afternoon, and he had a big box chest of golf balls, and he knocking them over this little river and wide, and had a little Mexican boy picking them up, bringing them back. And he said, "Hey, Jack, can I sing you a song?" Well, I got to laughing. He said, "What's funny?" I said, "Well, you get $1 million to go sing, and you say, is it okay to sing me a song?" He said, "I want your opinion. I want to cut this song and see what you think about it." I said, "What is it?" He said, "For the good times." I said, "Dean, do it. You and what's the good Western singer that just died that made that famous?" I said, "You're the only two can do it with the voice the way you deliver." But he was the funniest guy to be around. I told you about him and John Wayne, didn't I?
Not today.
Oh, well. Yeah, what it was, I forget which one was it. He was on it anyway, I can remember that. I did 9 or 10 shows around Dean. But when they brought him in there to meet Wayne, guy said, "Dean, this is Duke, you know, Duke, that's a dog's name. And Wayne looked at him, and then he said, no, how are you? And then they got along good, but the way he played it, just deadpan. They say Jerry Lewis is a comedian. He can't start that guy.
Well, you remember his TV show. That was an absolute must. Everybody would watch Dean Martin.
Oh, you bet.
That was the funniest
I
darn
asked
show.
him about, you mean that host show?
Yeah, exactly.
The one time, I was working on a show with him, one of his Western he did here, and that guy threw a prop through water, supposed to through the pump, and kept throwing buckets of water on it. And he turned on, you son of a bitch. I said, hey, did you ever realize a lot of people are mute, deaf, and dumb? He said, I don't give a shit. He said, I was going to kill that guy. He said, kept throwing that water on me, and I told him stop. And he said, if I could have got to him, he said, I'd have floored him for it. But he is something else.
Yeah.
And then one other guy, I don't know if we ever talked, I think we did for Jimmy Gardner. One of the greatest guys you ever would have been.
Yeah?
Well, I hadn't seen him years when we did this one, Streets of Laredo. And I said, how are you, Jim? Well, I'm still Jim Gardner from Oklahoma, just still a big old thing. Should have stayed there with my dad in a hardware store. But another just super guy.
Yeah. You know, I go out walking, look out at your ranch, and it looks like walking back into the 40s or 50s or something. I imagine it's just like Honby always used to be, 50, 60, 70 years ago when Bob was in junior high school. And
there you go.
Yeah.
You got some wagons out there. What are those about?
Well, they're all movie rentals.
Yeah?
I've got that 15 or 20 down in New Mexico, too.
So you rent out
my son runs a barn.
It's not just horses that you rent out then, huh?
Yeah, we got, my son lives in there down in New Mexico, and he's the hottest one going pretty much right now. But, we have a bunch of them, and I got 3 stagecoaches, and got them all kind. Every year, here comes the sheriff department. Can we have the jail wagon downtown? I said, sure, just come get it. And I let them always use it. But I always thought anyone, if you live here, and you guys, I mean, if you ever need anything, I know you, I'd say, come on, get it. I ain't going to charge them for that, just stuff like that. And I used to go around to school, and take a horse or two around elementary. A lot of kids, you'd be surprised, never been up really close to a horse, even this day and age.
That's right.
It's like over at Placerita Canyon Park. They can bus in the kids from L.A. and they've never seen they've never seen a rattlesnake before.
No, and I don't want to see another one. We never mentioned Gregory Peck, one of the finest gentlemen I ever met. I was a kid working with Jack Lilley. He was directing the second unit on that Western for the wagon. Uh-huh. Well, then Disney give you donuts and that. Well, a lot of them places would charge you for, come right there. Jane Russell, I can remember on a movie called Man in a Gray Flannel Suit, and it was supposed to be a bunch of soldiers. Well, I'd been out there months on that Western. Well, I went on and picked up a donut, and this old production man jumped me out, ate me, I'd put that back. And I said, what? He said, that's just not for you guys, none of you, there's certain people. Well, I put the donut back, okay, and walk out. And this voice behind said, son, you take that donut. And I took it. And then he turned around and he ate this guy out and said, if you don't have enough for everybody on this set, don't have one. That was Gregory Peck, so he was always my hero. He just come right up there. What a gentleman he was.
Well, another couple of fine gentlemen I want to thank for putting up with all this for the last hour or so. And house always welcome. Every one of you are already invited back. Appreciate that. And thank you, Bob, and thank you. And if you want to learn any more about Santa Clarita's Hollywood history or Santa Clarita history in general, stop by the Saugus train station in downtown Newhall, weekends 1 to 4. Visit scvhistory.com on the internet. I'm Leon Worden. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.